My top value plays for week 11 on DraftKings, and we're starting right now. What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to become a profitable DFS player and get better at betting, start now by subscribing to the channel, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything along the way. So when it comes to the quarterback position, the one thing I'm looking for value is having a little bit of a rushing floor. But if we want to pay all the way down, another thing that we could really pay attention to is the weapons that a quarterback has around him as well. So while I do think that Kyle Allen is going to be extremely popular in cash games at 5,300, partially because these Carolina assets are so inexpensive, I do think that we can pay down even further if we wanted to talk about a pure punt play at the quarterback position. Draft Driskel. So he's 4,100. Last week, I know a lot of people kind of overlooked him in that spot against Chicago, but he still gave us 37 rushing yards on 5 attempts, which is pretty great for a rushing quarterback. Also, 2 of those attempts were in the red zone as well. So I like that quite a bit. He's someone that used his legs a lot in college, but also the weapons that he has around him. We saw what Kenny Golladay could do with a smaller amount of kind of targets. Just in general, the passing game isn't as enticing, I guess, without Matt Stafford, but I do think that the weapons that he has, Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay, could really kind of elevate Jeff Driskel's floor overall. And at 4,600 on a slate where we're going to need a ton of value, I think you could do worse than Jeff Driskel in this game environment against Dallas. So I'm actually projecting the Detroit Lions for the 4th most plays on the entire slate. They have been passing a decent amount as well, but Dallas in particular, these games have been shaping up lately for a ton of points. They've had a ton of plays overall in them recently as well. So in this spot at home, Jeff Driskel isn't someone that's going to really push the ball downfield, but I do think at 4,600 does a lot to your lineup construction. And if you did want to pair him with either Kenny Golladay or Marvin Jones, I think that that's totally fine. But I also think you could roll him out naked and just build out a super stars and scrub approach at the position this week. I really don't love a ton of value down there outside of him and Kyle Allen. So my next value play is going to be in that same game that we've talked about a lot, Carolina and Atlanta. So talking about Brian Hill, unsurprisingly, 4,800 is going to draw a ton of ownership this week with Devonta Freeman out. I do think that he is a guy that he does project as someone that might not be quite as talented, but he has had a bell cow role in the past, will catch a decent amount of passes as well. I'm currently projecting him for 3.5 receptions, so definitely not a 0 in that regard. And the matchup couldn't be much better. Carolina 32nd in the NFL against the run. So I definitely think that that is, in theory, where you do want to attack this Carolina team. So at 4,800, I don't know if he's necessarily just a free square, but in cash games, I think that that is the clear value at the running back position this week with guys like Devin Singletary all the way up at 6K. We have a couple of other options down there, J.D. McKissick, but if we do end up getting Johnson back in that spot, not as interested in that. So there's, I guess we could kind of talk about if it is a Miles Sanders game, if Jordan Howard doesn't end up suiting up. So there's a bunch of things that could happen that would break things a little bit in favor of some of these other cheap running backs. But at the time of this video, I do think Brian Hill is still the best value at the position and just gives you just another player in this Atlanta-Carolina game to attack. So I'm interested in him just based on touches alone. I'm projected for almost 20 touches right now with a few through the air. So at 4,800, I definitely think that he's a solid value at the running back position. So from a value perspective, I consider talking about DJ Moore, but he's probably a little bit too expensive. Even though he's underpriced, I would consider him a pretty strong value. But let's go all the way down a little bit at the wide receiver position. I want to talk about 2 guys today, Deebo Samuel and Russell Gage. So let's actually start with Gage. So 3,300, I do think that he's someone that could benefit from that role that was vacated by Mohamed Sanu. And now we know that Hooper is going to be out as well. So Gage has seen 14 targets over the last 2 weeks. Recently, 16% target share is nothing to shake your head at. Austin Hooper, Devonta Freeman, again, both of those guys are injured. So I do think that he could soak up a little bit of that work as well. It's possible that it could just go all to Julio. Calvin Ridley could be involved as well. But I think you can at least project a little bit more than normal for Gage. So I think that he's interesting in a game environment that we love in Carolina. A lot of roster constructions are not going to allow you to get up to Calvin Ridley in that spot. So I think at 3,300, he projects for someone that we can probably say it could be almost a lock for 4 to 5 targets, but could get us as many as 6 or 7 at 3,300. That seems like a decent value option. And Gage is one of those ones that you could just play in game stacks, or you could just play as a super low salary player to kind of make some of these stars and scrubs lineup work. So I think that he's interesting. Deebo Samuel is one that we want to kind of pay attention to. The injury, of course, for Emmanuel Sanders, but Kendrick Bourne, Dante Pettis, these guys just have not been very good this year. Marques Goodwin, kind of a non-factor as well. So I think that Samuel is one of those guys that could kind of emerge as one of the main options in this offense. Obviously, George Kittle is going to be out as well. So there's just a huge target share there if Kittle does indeed sit again with that knee injury. I guess that's still questionable at the time of this video. So I'm interested in that in particular because of the matchup. This Arizona team can be beat through the air, of course, and 4K for Deebo, someone that is dangerous with the ball in his hands. Again, we're just looking kind of dumpster diving a bit for some of these wide receivers that could project for some volume. Massive team total there, almost 29 points at the time of this video. And Arizona, 31st best team at defending short passes. So I think if they just kind of get the ball in Deebo's hands a little bit at 4K, he could definitely hit value in this spot. I think he's going to draw some ownership for sure, but I'm interested in paying down for Deebo and kind of getting a cheaper piece of at least attacking this Arizona defense this week. Seems like a lot of the value is in this Atlanta and Carolina game this week, but one thing that I think will be a little bit under-owned is Greg Olson. So 3,900 for him. The matchup is basically middle of the pack against Carolina in terms of how they defend tight ends, but the things that we really want to prioritize at the tight end position are trying to capture touchdowns. So a higher team total would just give me more chances at getting in the box score for Greg Olson. So I'm interested in him. Not as much upside based on his weighted opportunity. It's not near as high. We know that there's going to be Christian McCaffrey stealing a lot of touchdown equity as well. But one thing that I love about Greg Olson, at 3,900, he's actually leading the entire slate in routes run over the last 4 games, 139 routes. It's extremely important to have tight ends that are running routes, not just blocking. So 10 targets last week, 8 catches, just misses that 100-yard bonus. But he did have 6 targets in the game before that as well. So his usage has been very strong recently. So I think that if you are going to roll out some Carolina stacks, you could consider adding Greg Olson to that as well and taking care of the tight end position. 3,900 is something that we would love to pay down for in theory. So I like the idea of paying all the way down this week. 3,900, of course, there's cheaper options, but it does get thin fast. So I think if you were going to go value at the position this week, Greg Olson for me. If you want to learn more about how to be a profitable DFS player, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking to take your game to that next level, I go live each and every Sunday morning at 11:30 Eastern time on Twitch. Come hang out with us, twitch.tv/Joe Holka. You won't regret it.